crypto in a minute, but first I want to say this. Smoking weed is a basic human right. Everybody talks about, it's got so many amazing properties that are good for your health, good for your bones, good for your heart, good for your blood, good for your lungs, good for your mental health, good for your stress, your anxiety. All of these amazing health benefits. But that doesn't matter. It is a human right. If the only thing weed did was get you high, you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if weed gets that done for you, if weed is your pursuit of happiness, that is your God-given, constitutionally protected right. And rights cannot be taxed. The Supreme Court has upheld that. Rights cannot be taxed. Rights cannot be converted to privileges and charged a tax for the exercise thereof. So we need to stop with this nonsense about we can legalize weed and make so much money on taxes. No, you can't. You can't make money taxing weed because smoking weed is a basic human right. It needs to be legal, not for medicinal purposes, for whatever the hell you want to use it for, because it is a basic human right. Your body belongs to you. It does not belong to the government or your neighbor or anybody else. If you want to smoke weed and you're not bothering anybody else, nobody has the right to interfere with you. Alright, now on to crypto. I see Bitcoin Pimp has joined. Alright, so I had a friend, so I was like on, I got my Coinbase account approved, finally. I haven't been able to use it for years because they switched to like an account verification system. And I had already emptied out my account at that point because, I made some shitty investments and lost it all and transferred it to a private wallet and whatever. So my account was empty and I lost access to it because they required identity verification, which required a driver's license, and I don't have a driver's license. I haven't had one in like 14 years. And so I wasn't able to get verified. But for some reason, I was looking at like all of these, I'm like, because I'm using Kraken right now, but it's kind of like a pain in the ass with the banks that I use to get money in there. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get in these others. So I tried Binance. I couldn't get Binance to get me an account. I tried crypto.com, and I think like I got hung up there on something. And then for some reason, I was just like, I'm going to go back to Coinbase and see if I can get set up there. And I lost my second factor authentication, so I had to reset all that. And to get past that, I had to send a picture of my ID, which was my passport. And in doing so, I got approved. So now I can open my account and I can deposit money and I can buy stuff. And I'm like, hey, that's fucking awesome. So I bought this coin that was like $70,000 per coin or something. I didn't buy a whole coin. I bought like a couple $100 worth of it. I don't even remember what it was called. But I told my friend about it, and he's like, holy shit, that's really expensive. And I'm like, what does that matter? And because we have this perception, right? First of all, the price of these things is completely speculative. And I'll get into in a minute. Oh shit, I'm out of gas. I'll get into that in a minute about how one single transaction can totally throw off what the value of an entire cryptocurrency is. But so for now, I'll talk about this coin, right? This coin is valued at $70,000 for a coin. And a lot of you may already know, but that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you know how many coins there are. And so I looked at the market cap for this coin, and it was something like $3 billion. Now you compare that to Bitcoin, and it's $3 trillion. And basically what that means is the entirety of this coin is worth, even though one coin is worth 70,000, which is more than one Bitcoin, all of those coins, if you were able to buy every single one of those coins at that price, you would only have $3 billion, versus if you were able to buy every single Bitcoin at the current price, you'd have $3 trillion. And that's kind of what you have to look at, right? What is the market cap? And that's why they publish the market cap, because you want to know. If trading a crypto is like trading a stock, right? Because you're buying fractional shares based on the value of the sum of everything. You want to know how much the entire company is worth. And so on the stock market, they publish the market cap, which says, okay, every share at the current price would total this amount. And if it says the company is worth $5 billion, and you're like, no, there's no way that company is worth $5 billion. They don't make that much money. They don't have any assets, blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to say, no, that's overpriced. And there's no way in hell I'm going to buy shares at that price. And that's ultimately what makes the shares come down. And so when you look at a coin, you want to look at the entire market, right? The reason all of Bitcoin is worth $3 trillion is because there are a lot of people using it. It's very widely accepted. And yes, it could instantly be replaced if everybody said, hey, we're going to replace Bitcoin with Dogecoin. Dogecoin would instantly be worth $3 trillion. But the problem is people aren't doing that. They're sticking to Bitcoin. And even though there's all these other altcoins out there, most people are sticking to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still the most popular, the most used, the most held as far as like savings and these sorts of things. So that's what really gives it its value, right? Like there's Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, which is a Bitcoin fork. There's a few Bitcoin forks, right? None of those are worth the same as Bitcoin. And I'm not talking about one coin, I'm talking about the whole ecosystem of those coins. None of them are worth as much as Bitcoin because they're not used as many places, right? So you have to look at the value of the entirety of the coin, and that determines its value. And then you can divide that up by, okay, how many coins are there? How many Satoshis are there? That was an interesting one. I started looking at what is the cost of a Satoshi, because a Satoshi is basically the atom of Bitcoin, right? You can't have half a Satoshi, right? And so if one Satoshi ever gets to be $5, you cannot make a transaction less than $5 or $5.50. It has to be in multiples of $5, which could potentially be dangerous. But right now, one Satoshi is like 0.005 cents or something like that. So it's still really small. Of course, that means if Bitcoin ever gets to be, for one coin, $80 million, then the price of Satoshi might be interesting, and it might be a little bit too high for the currency to mean anything, right? Imagine if there were, $10 bills and there were no $1 bills and no coins. That wouldn't be too fun to run around using the dollar if there's, if everything has to be in those multiples, right? So, but the thing is, people don't track Bitcoin based on the price of the Satoshi, even though the price of the Satoshi is, when you're trading Bitcoin, you're trading Satoshis. That's all you're doing, right? If the price of Bitcoin doubles, the price of the Satoshi doubles. But what's the difference? It's just the number that you're using. That's it. I was talking this morning about how all of these things are relative, right? currency, valuation, prices, markets, everything. It's all relative. This is all relative to the size of the share of this thing that you're trading. And so, if Bitcoin is one big pie and it's divided into a billion slices versus if it's only divided into a million slices, the price of the slices is going to be different. Obviously. So this is something super important, and I know, there's still a perception, right? Because I know there's still a bunch of people who are out there, oh, this coin is only 0.02 cents. And what if it goes up to $1? Why would it ever go up to $1? I mean, if it's 2 cents now, what's the entire ecosystem worth? How many people are using it? Why would it ever go up to $1, right? And just because a bunch of other coins have gone from 0 to $1 or $5 or $10 or $100 or $70,000 doesn't really mean anything for any other coin. All right, so I wanted to talk one other thing about manipulating the market and how these prices are also based on speculation. So I like to use the example, if today Dogecoin is worth 50 cents and everybody stops trading, nobody's trading, nobody wants to buy, nobody wants to sell. And then you and I go to an exchange and we're just one person with one Dogecoin and $1. And I say, I'm going to sell you one Dogecoin for $1. And you say, okay. Because we made that $1 transaction through an exchange, and probably the other exchanges are taking note of, of what the other exchanges are doing. Because we made that one transaction, that is now what is called the last transaction price, right? When you see those numbers on the ticker about, what a coin is worth, that's not based on anything except for what was the last transaction. How much did somebody pay for it? That's all that is. If somebody paid $1 for it, it's worth $1. So if you buy one Dogecoin from me for $1, you just doubled the price of Dogecoin. Anyone who's calculating the market cap is going to double the market cap. Anybody who has 1,000 Dogecoins in their wallet is now going to say, oh, well, I had $500, now I have $1,000. But now let's say this trading holiday is over, and for whatever reason everybody didn't want to trade, now they want to trade again. A lot of people are going to see that dollar and say, yeah, I want to sell my Dogecoins for $1, but nobody's going to want to buy it for $1 because they're going to know, well, that was just one transaction. It's not really worth that much. I'm only going to pay 50 cents for it. And you will see the price quickly drop right back down to 50 cents because that's what most of the people in the market want. And this is, I think, super important because you won't see this too often in an extremely liquid market where you have lots of buyers and lots of sellers and a constantly high volume. But when the volume starts to slow down, what that indicates is that people aren't really either they don't want to sell or they don't want to buy, or they're not willing to sell or buy at the current price, and the price is going to be going somewhere. And when that happens, you have fewer transactions, which means every single one of those transactions has a much bigger influence on the price of the market, on the last transaction trade price, right? So I think this is extremely important to consider, that just because a market is going up, that just means some people are buying and they're willing to pay high prices for it. And the people who are selling are asking for more for it. It doesn't actually mean the value of this thing is any higher. If something goes up 10% today, it could just as easily go down 10% tomorrow. So all of this is speculation. But I'm not going to try to tell anybody don't do it, don't invest in this stuff, because the reality is a lot of people are investing in crypto because they believe it is the future of currency, or they believe in the projects that a lot of these new altcoins are running. They're running projects on top of their currencies. So these are still very valuable, practical investments, but you just have to understand how the market works, because you're not going to a retail store and buying a PlayStation off the shelf where everybody's paying the same price and everybody gets the same thing. When you're investing in this, it's more of a game. There are lots of players in there. There's lots of people trying to manipulate prices to come out on top. And if you have a shit ton of money, you can do that. If you have a shit ton of influence on social media, or, whatever, you're Elon Musk and you post a tweet and everybody says, ooh, I want that. You can manipulate a market. And that's exactly what's going on with Doge. Not to talk shit about Doge, because, it's still speculative. It's still a coin. It still has some value. And if that's what people want to invest in, look at Beanie Babies. People were spending a ridiculous amount of money on Beanie Babies. There was an entire market bubble based on virtual goods a few years back, where basically you had video games with like these characters, and if you spent $5 in real money, you could put a hat on your character, on your avatar, right? You could change the color of his clothes if you paid real money. There was an economy based on World of Warcraft coins. You could do more things in the game if you bought these coins, and there was a secondary market where you could buy these coins with real money. Now, of course, I should put air quotes on real money because it was fiat currency, but point stands. Anyway, guys, hope that was cool information for you. I'm out. Taxation is theft. Smoking weed is a human right.